So I do want to talk about character and leadership and winning the right way. And I know everybody wants to win. And if I asked all of you who wants to win, I know all of you would put your hand in the air. And I would say, how many of you want to win the right way? And I know a lot of you would put your hand in the air as well. So let me tell you a little story that kind of helps to set who I am and what I stand for in this topic and why this is so important to me. As Raleigh said, I was a division commander in northern Iraq, multinational division north, during the end of the surge in 2008 to 2009. Baghdad had quieted down. I had responsibility for Nineveh province, which included Mosul, so you had the foreign fighter flow coming in through Syria. I had the three Kurdish provinces, Diyala province east of Baghdad, which had all of the illicit activity coming in through Iran. So it was a pretty complex environment. And Mosul was the heart of the radical Sunni insurgency that was still going on. And we had, and I was in the 25th Division, but I had a brigade from 1st Cavalry Division that was attached to me, and they were up in Mosul, in that particular area. The entire brigade was up in that Nineveh province. On the western part, which was a more contentious area, was a great battalion with a phenomenal battalion commander by the name of Gary Derby. And Gary was loved by his soldiers. He would lead from the front. He would share hardships. He was always out there. Incredibly competent, and as I got to know him over the first couple months and knowing all the battalion commanders as the division commander, Gary was probably one of the top 2 or 3 battalion commanders in the division. And then one day I got the phone call that no division commander ever wants to get from the brigade commander, saying that a suicide vehicle-borne improvised explosive device, an SVBID, had attacked Gary Derby's convoy, exploded right next to Gary Derby's vehicle, and everybody in his vehicle, to include the battalion commander, was killed. Vehicle to the front and back survived. So we lost that battalion commander. As soon as I got the news, I got in a helicopter, flew up to Mosul, put my arm around the battalion leadership, and assured them as much as I could that we would quickly find someone to take Gary's place. No one would ever take his place. And that we would mourn and then celebrate Gary's life. And then we'd have to move on with the mission. It's amazing the impact of the loss of a battalion commander has on the combat effectiveness of a unit. So I went to, interestingly enough, the 1st Division commander, who was also in theater and had oversight of Baghdad, a friend of mine, and I said, you don't happen to have any other centrally selected lieutenant colonels who are selected for battalion command, not yet in battalion command. Centrally selected means that a board reviews all the different applicants and nominees. And he said, I do have somebody, he's on my staff. And he says, if you need him, we'll send him up there. I said, I do. So we took that guy, sent him up there. He quickly took over the battalion. Very competent, excellent leader. And then no more than a month into his command, I get another phone call from the brigade commander saying, sir, you're not going to believe this, but I have to suspend this battalion commander. He had a negligent discharge, and then he ordered the soldiers around him not to report it. Certainly it got leaked out. So now he's under investigation. And as we were doing the investigation, we also found out that he, at the time, was having an illicit, immoral relationship online with one of his staff, the spouses of one of his staff officers back home. So we had to obviously relieve him of duty. So within just a couple of months, that battalion had went through the loss of 2 battalion commanders. The impact on the battalion, especially when that battalion, the 2nd battalion commander was relieved, was amazing. I would go up there and hang out with the battalion and go on what we call battlefield circulation, going around and hanging out with the troops. And there were discipline problems, there were uniform problems, there were NCO challenges, of which the brigade commander really knew that he had to get his arms around. But the fact of the matter was, not only because of the breach of character of that particular battalion commander, not only did it have an impact on him and his career, but it also had a tremendous impact on the combat effectiveness of the unit. As a senior leader of a division of 23,000 soldiers, I had responsibility of oversight of the adjudicating any breaches of moral conduct for any of the senior leaders. And I had a number of them. I remember writing letters of reprimand or Article 15s for senior leaders who are defined by senior non-commissioned officers, all officers, and warrant officers. And I was writing these at least 1 to 2 times a week. And I asked my lawyer, I said, what's going on in our division? I said, sir, we're no different than anybody else. But what was interesting is that Every single one of these letters, except for 2 cases, had to do with immoral, illicit activity inside the forward operating base, like sexual harassment, sexual assault, inappropriate command climates, unauthorized wearing of awards and things like that. All breaches of conduct that, again, not only had an impact on the individual leader's career, but it also had an impact on the unit that that leader was in charge of. I'm not sure how many of you have ever been affiliated with a profession, whether it's a profession of lawyers, a profession of doctors, a profession of arms. I know many of you have been in the military as a member of the profession of arms. Professions have something that is very unique. First of all, they have a unique service that they provide to their client, and they are experts at the service that they provide. And they also have a unique relationship with their client, which is built on trust. So in the profession of arms, you know, we look at the profession itself and we realize that our profession, in order to be strong, has to have what we consider in the military character, competence, and commitment. Character, competence, and commitment. The competence is in line with what a profession is. You have to be an expert at something, and in the military, we are experts, the expert use of military and deadly force in a lawful and ethical manner. And what makes us truly unique is that we're prepared to give our life in its use. And that's the competence of which we embrace. Character, competence, and commitment. Let me talk a little bit about commitment, and then I'm going to spend some time on character. Commitment is tremendously important because if you're committed to your profession, it means you're all in. It means that you buy into what it stands for. It means you buy into the culture, the values that define that particular culture, and that you are all in. But there's also a very important additional aspect of commitment, and that means that you're committed to the values and to the standards of the organization, and you're stewards of your profession, which means that you will hold each other accountable to those standards. We don't allow someone else to hold us accountable. We hold ourselves accountable. If we fail to hold ourselves accountable in the military profession of arms, guess who holds us accountable? Congress, got a commander-in-chief and people like that. So this commitment is not only individually that we're all in, but the commitment is that we're stewards of our profession, that we hold each other accountable, and is tremendously important. Now let me talk a little bit about the character, if I can, the character piece. At West Point, our mission is to educate, train, and inspire leaders of character. It's been that way the 5 years I was a superintendent. It was that way before with the superintendent before me and even before him. Leaders of character. At West Point, we develop cadets with an academic program to develop them intellectually. We develop them with a military program, with a physical program, because in the crucible of ground combat, they have to lead in the harshest of circumstances and lead physically. And we develop them in a character program. But you might find it interesting and ask yourself, well, then why are we not defining our mission statement that we educate, train, and inspire leaders who are intellectually competent? Or educate, train, and inspire leaders who are militarily competent? Why do we say leaders of character? And the answer is quite simply because you could be number one in your class academically, but if you fail in character, you fail in leadership. You can be number one in your class physically, but if you fail in character, you fail in leadership. And building leaders of character becomes the most important thing that we do. The foundation of our development of leaders of character is built on the honor code. And the honor code says that we don't lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. This generation has a challenge with the whole toleration clause. But as I try to describe in the stewardship of the profession, our commitment to that profession, if we tolerate those who fail to hold our standards of honor, then we fail not only that individual's development, we fail the profession at large. We don't lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. So no lying, no cheating, or steal becomes the foundation of our character. But as I realized from the many challenges that I saw in Iraq when I was a division commander, as I wrote those letters of reprimand, there were breaches of character far beyond lying, cheating, and stealing. So I saw this as we have to develop leaders of character who know how to live honorably, honorable living. And living honorably has as its foundation our honor code, but living honorably goes much further. Living honorably is the internalization of our values so that they become part of our very essence. And if we internalize those values, the values of duty, honor, and country, and the values of our Army, loyalty and duty and respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage, when they become internalized, they become part of our very essence. And when they're part of our very essence, when we're faced with a compromising circumstance or situation, we don't have to necessarily think about what right or wrong is. What's the right reaction or the wrong reaction? Sometimes when those situations, those compromising situations appear, you don't even have time to think. You just naturally react. And how you react at that particular time is going to be the manifestation of the values you've internalized. I like to think of it this way. If I'm holding a cup of coffee and the coffee is filled to the top, if somebody comes up behind me and hits my elbow, whether I want to or not, what's inside that cup's going to spill out. And when I'm faced with a compromising situation or circumstances, what's inside of me is what's going to spill out. I remember cadets who would be standing in front of me who had committed an honor violation and say, "Sir, that was not me. I didn't mean to do it." I said, "Whether you meant to do it or whether you didn't mean to do it, I disagree. It really was you because it was a manifestation of what you internalized at that particular moment." And if you manifest breaches of character, those are the defects that have to be addressed. So living honorably is the internalization of those values. But that character development process doesn't happen automatically. One of the unique things about the military academies is that they receive nominations from congressmen and women and senators from across the nation. So the diversity of candidates is significant. They come across the nation. And because they come across so many different sources of nominations, they bring with them the values that they've been raised with, the values that have been raised in the home, in the community, in the church, in the schools, the teams they've been playing on. Those values, when they arrive at West Point, may or may not be consistent with duty, honor, country. But our job is to develop them so that when the time they throw their head in the air, duty, honor, country is internalized. It's imbued into their very essence. And that's where we want to get with them. Character at West Point is developed within a culture that embraces our values. So the cadets themselves no longer breed those values, the duty, honor, country, but so does the staff and faculty. So does the entire organization. It creates an umbrella that defines those particular values. And everybody buys into it, and everybody becomes a role model of the values in that they live and breathe them, and they become mentors in that value set as well. And within that particular culture, where everybody embraces that value set, then we throw the cadets into leadership positions and followership positions so that they're challenged in those particular positions and they can develop their leadership skills embraced by a culture of duty, honor, country.